So for this part, I just want to say, I'm not just the person who's the MC for this particular part. I'm not just a person who, because I work for Look to Justice, I get to say this part, right? But the truth of the matter is, I'm the child of an incarcerated parent. When I say that, most people immediately think I'm talking about my dad, right? Like that's the first thing that always happens. But for me, it was my mom. And so my mom went to prison when I was 3 months, and she was released when I was 21 years old. And if you know my story, then you know that means I was already in prison 3 years before she ever even got out. So while we hold this conversation about the cost of incarceration, I really want you to listen to the perspectives of everybody here. Again, thank everybody. Thank everybody who's sharing perspective, but thank everybody who's listening and really appreciating perspective. And you'll notice I almost went too fast. One of my favorite things in life, I go too fast sometimes. My lady always got to remind me, Kelsey always got to remind me of everything. I walked out the door this morning. She's like, hey, you got your keys? I'm like, yeah. You got your phone? I'm like, yeah. She's like, wait a minute, do you got the mail to take to Sherry? I was like, oh yeah. Hold on, wait, let me get it. You know, everybody, you need somebody to pack your lunch pail for you, right? Get everything right, man. Get your backpack together. So I got an empty seat, and the empty seat is on purpose. That isn't on accident. The empty seat is about the reality of the voice that goes unheard, the people who aren't physically able to be here. But we want to, in this room, acknowledge them and acknowledge their presence. And how we chose to do that was have an empty seat, and that we can all recognize that those voices matter too, and that they count. Okay, so my first question, and the first person I'm gonna start with just so happens to land this way. I didn't tell nobody to sit in no particular spaces. Just happened like that. It's gonna be for Jordan. And Jordan's all the way over here, and we're gonna start. So for you, Jordan, thank you for being willing to start us off. And what I wanna know from you is, I want you to tell us whatever you wanna tell us about you, and then I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan. I am the daughter of a formerly incarcerated mother. I am a student-started citizen. I am a law student whose lived experience really informs that career choice, despite it all.
Thank you. So when you think back to your childhood, what were the early moments when you first felt your mother's incarceration shaping your life?
Yeah, so for me, I do not have memories of not knowing what a prison is or that police can take your family away. Like very, very early on, I was very aware of that reality. And how did I feel it? Growing up, I was an anxious kid, deeply afraid of the police, but grew up in a very conservative, pro-military, pro-police household. So I was constantly told that fear is misplaced. And then growing up and, becoming educated and living a little bit more in the world, I learned that fear was deeply not misplaced. I was super young and I would have nightmares about the police taking my family away. If I was in the car with a guardian and they got pulled over, like instant panic attack, just like fear, fear, fear. And so, I don't have memories of not feeling my mother's incarceration.
Thank you so much. What were the things you needed most, emotionally or just practically, that became harder to reach because your mother wasn't there?
I was still very fortunate to grow up in a two-parent household, but I think that emotional support of your biological mother for some is very important. I think there was a lot of family history that I missed out on. I didn't understand, how did my parents meet? And, why did they have children? And those were stories that I had to wait later in life to learn. I think it was also that fundamental connection of not having my mom physically there. She didn't understand what was going on in my life. early childhood of, just the extracurriculars I was doing. And then as I entered teenage years of, understanding the way that I was changing and my emotions and not having that person there to support me. But I was also obsessed with my mom growing up. Like, those phone calls that I did get to have were so special. And I eventually did get to learn a little bit about my family history, but it was in 20-minute increments, right? It had to get interrupted and call back. I think about making like Christmas and birthday cards and how the DOC mandated what kind of markers I could use, and you can't put stickers in it, and like trying to understand these rules as such a young child, like that was really profound.
Thank you. So next, I come to the man himself. So thank you for being here and your willingness to share. My question for you is, I'm gonna allow you to introduce yourself first.
Good morning to you guys. I'm DeAndre Davis. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Respect. The question I have for you is, growing up without your father physically present, what were the moments when his absence felt the hardest?
When his absence felt the hardest, it really was like during like birthday parties, graduations, when he wasn't there, like especially like during practices or football games. Like, I play different because he's not there. Like, it just be like certain occasions like that.
Did you feel like you had to grow up faster than other kids and come to an understanding of things faster as a kid because your dad was incarcerated? And what was that like?
Yeah, for sure, because it felt like I had to learn the harder way. Like, I had to learn everything the harder way, because he wasn't there, like I said. He wasn't there since I was, a baby. But as I got older, I realized, like, it's not his fault, and I had to look at, like, a bigger picture. Like, I had to look in his shoes, like, he was doing this, like, he was doing what I was doing when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything repeatedly. Like, everything I was doing, he did it when he was younger. So it was like, I don't know, man. I really couldn't feel no way.
I appreciate that. And that kind of gave you some space to make self-correction, right? Because you was able to see stuff in front of you before it happened and then still get guidance from him because he had already been there, right? Thank you. So the last question I have for you is, if you could speak to your younger self, what would you say to that younger person?
Don't treat your dad like that.
Profound. Let's take a minute and stop and think about that, man. He said, don't treat your dad like that, right? Like, just think about what that means and all the dynamics that comes with that. So let's take a breath and then move on. I'm allow you to introduce yourself, Candace.
My name is Candace. My husband served 22 years for a crime he didn't commit, and I served every one of those days with him. He went in when I was turning 17 and got out when I was turning 39, and he's been home for almost 5 years now, and we're still rocking, trying to make this reentry life work.
Talk about it. We talking about commitment. So for you, what was it like trying to maintain that relationship across the prison walls and across the prison wire, and the waiting and the uncertainty? What was that like?
Jeez. I mean, for one, it was expensive because those calls cost. And when we started in 98, he was at Walla Walla, and those calls were $18 for 20 minutes. Oh. And they would shut off if the wind blew too hard, and you talk for about 1 minute and you pay the whole $18. So we learned very quickly how to talk on the phone and not make too many popping sounds, and just learn the rules of how to talk on this phone. But then too, you're going all across the state. Wherever he gets transferred, you're going. So it could be 5 hours to an hour away. That's where you spend your weekends, trying to keep that connection. if you can afford those calls, it's probably, once or twice a day, and then trying to catch up on the weekend visits, which then for me, it just kind of, you get really isolated because your life becomes the weekends. That's when all the invites come. So the friends stop inviting you to go. You don't have a whole lot of outside connection, and your world becomes prison. And it gives you this false sense of, I guess, kind of family, because you see people in there every week. So you kind of feel familiar, but you're still doing life alone. And then when he comes home, you realize you don't have a lot of friends. You don't have a lot of life outside of him. And so that's really been what I've been working on, is just trying to establish my own life for the first time.
Wow. Thank you for that. So looking back, what do you want the public, or especially the people that's here, right? What do you want us to know about what it truly means to love someone who is incarcerated?
The thing for me was, people asked me, how did you stay with him for all that time? And I never really signed on to do 26 years. That was his original sentence. It was, this is my friend, my partner who was wrongfully convicted, and we're going to fight this. So you start down that appeal process, and that's, 2-3 years at the pop. I didn't know that at 17. I'm thinking, like, he's innocent, we're going to just go in there and get this done. So you end up looking, after a while, you look up and it's been 10 years and you didn't really know that you were going to be doing all this time. And I think for me, it kind of, I think I knew I was in the time when he hit the mark where they had offered him a plea, and we got to that point and he was still in there. It was kind of probably the biggest shock, because it was like, oh, we're actually going to be doing the rest of this time, most likely. So supporting him through that was because I knew who he was. I knew that he wasn't supposed to be there. And you don't just stop loving someone because they get a time attached to them. It wasn't something that I could just turn off. And we just tried to really figure out how we could stay connected and make this work. But I will say, I think it's even been harder since he came home. I mean, the prison part, I started to kind of understand and knew what that system was. And I incorporated my life into his, still while maintaining my own life out here. And I think that I thought we were both doing the same thing. Like, I was in school, he would be in school. I would be working, he was working. One thing that I wasn't, or neither one of us accounted for, is that I was failing a lot too, and learning from my failure, and then learning how to fix those failures. He had a lot of theory, a lot of idea. He knew what he was talking about, but never had to put it in practicum. So we weren't really on the same page on a lot of things, and still we're trying to figure that pace out. But yeah, the homecoming is really difficult. And when he came home, he was wrapped up with a lot of programming, a lot of services. People want to help and do this. And I'm just over here like, I don't know what the heck is going on, who this person is. I don't know how to do reentry. But those same things weren't offered to me. I'm still trying to figure that out. Wasn't offered when he went in. I had to figure that alone. And now him being home, I'm still kind of figuring that out alone. So it's hard to be a supporter. And yes, he's doing the time, but you are doing the time with him. And a lot of the institutionalization that happens to him, it jumped over onto me. And I didn't realize I was institutionalized in a lot of ways. And I'm still kind of undoing that. But I've never been arrested. I've never had any police interaction besides maybe 2 tickets. This has been my interaction with that. And it's still, I'm so deeply affected by it today. So I guess just to know that it's definitely, it affects us in a really deep way.
Thank you so much for that profound perspective that all of us could use. We appreciate that so much. Daryl, you want to say what you need to say about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Davis Bell. I like to play the background, actually, but Antoine Davis has got me up front. I'm a social worker and definitely an empath, and so I know somebody's hurting in here. And I just feel that, and just felt earlier like I wanted to cry, but I kind of gotten this. My son was arrested by trying to elude a taxi driver years ago. and so he happened to have a gun, so he had a mandatory sentence to do so many, I don't know, 52, 42 months. But anyway, he got out and was doing good. And then one day, helicopters flying over, and my mom ends up having to go to emergency because she had a phone call, and then we find someone had shot up a restaurant locally. And when I walked around, my mom had to go to emergency because she was in bad shape. I ran to the restaurant to see what was going on. The helicopters were flying overhead. It was like surreal. It was like a dream or a movie. So by the time I got home, then we find people looking at the news, and they said, "You were on the news." And I thought the newscasters have no idea that was my son that they're all looking for. And I'm glad they didn't. But anyway, I've been through that, the pain of him being in prison. And then my other son was murdered recently, a year ago. And, he was in the life, whatever that life is. Okay. And then, thank you. I'm very transparent, but I'm also kind of very emotional. But during that time, a friend of mine with a counseling agency contacted me and asked me if I'd be willing to counsel dudes, provide counseling therapy for guys in prison. And with the loss, recently experiencing the loss of my mom, I was like really at home just not doing anything. And so I did. And I don't know, is this breaking confidentiality? I think, so we started a relationship with people that have progressed into more of a friendship. And I want to start this kind of counseling model called conversational counseling. And I think that's what I'm doing now. And so after, my friend Ellison, worked with Filthy Rags Ministry, Filthy Rags Outreach. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to work with them and meet a lot of people from these different organizations. I thought I'd been to jail on my Candace many times, but I didn't know anything about prison. And I don't know what questions you have for me. Hopefully I'm not.
Go ahead, take your time. You do your thing.
So in this process, I'm really learning kind of the struggles that people are going through. I used to think, like, sometimes I'm talking to someone in prison and I'm like thinking they could go outside and get some fresh air and just meditate on some things I'm saying, but it's not. I'm realizing this person's locked up. And I don't understand not having that freedom. But then after talking, I realized this person is more free to be. I'm not behind bars, but in many ways in my life, I'm being a prisoner. And one, by just losing my mom and different things, I kind of lived inwardly. I don't need a lot of recognition or praise, but I feel like I'm getting called. I came in to do some counseling, and I ended up with a calling, and that's why I'm here.
And so for you holding that not so unique perspective of someone who has lost a son to the streets and then lost a son to prison, trying to reconcile, how did you then find yourself or find your way?
Accidentally. Or I would say by providence, because I don't believe in luck. Mm-hmm. I believe in divine appointments. And I'm still trying to come out of this because I'm living in a totally new reality at 65. Why do I have to now try to find a new me? But I think I'm just learning to live in the new reality that I find myself in. And it's not just a day, I'm in recovery, they say a day at a time. Mm-hmm. But when you're been diagnosed with PTSD and dealing with depression and anxiety, it's for me, it's one breath at a time,
Mm.
one moment at a time. And I don't really care what I do, but it's how I be, the person that I am. If I can show love and compassion and be gentle, kind, and patient with everyone, then I hate the doing part. It kind of automatically rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Man, no, thank you so much. Amazing. So now, Demario, tell us what you want to tell us about you.
My name is Demario Johnson. I am a victim of gun violence. I was shot and paralyzed in 2018 on the morning of Thanksgiving while I was at work. Now I'm an executive director of a youth violence program through my church, and I coach high school basketball.
So for you, after the moment everything changed, what do you remember most about the days, weeks afterward? Not the event, but the emotional impact.
I don't think it was something that I was truly prepared for. Obviously, being able to get up and move around and walk and do all these things for majority of your life, and then in a matter of 5 minutes, that was completely changed. I got shot when I was 26, and I realized early that it didn't just take a emotional toll on myself. Like, it took a toll on my mom, my friends, my family, and I think just the way that I grew up, my mom being, overcoming a drug addiction, me being in foster care, the resilience was already there. So there wasn't a thought in my mind that, I wouldn't be able to get through what I was going through. Was it hard? Of course. But, you're adapted to a world that's not necessarily made for you, and being so independent for so long, you don't want anybody to feel sorry for you. So I found myself turning down, a lot of help because it was a pride thing, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could get through what I was going through.
And so amongst all the other things that you do, I know you also coach the youth basketball team. And I just want to say the next question is, how did you find your way from surviving your own trauma, trying to understand everything that happened and where you were going to go? How did you find yourself then being able to turn that around to serving and helping young people?
I think that just came through after I got shot. I just wanted to be as transparent as possible with the things that I was dealing with, and it started with me just sharing, a lot of my story on Facebook. When I got shot, David Rose was actually somebody who came to my hospital room, and there was a segment on the news, so a little bit of I guess popularity, you want to say, came from the night that I was injured. So just through that, I had a lot of people that were reaching out to me through social media and just telling me, like, my story impacted them, and the transparency that I was giving out was helping them get through the things that they were dealing with. So ultimately that encouraged me to, use my voice a little bit more. And yeah, I just, obviously I grew up playing sports. I was a 3-sport athlete: football, baseball, basketball. And one of my close friends actually presented an opportunity where I was just working the front desk at first. I was just working at the front desk, and over time, a few coaches started to leave the program, and an opportunity presented itself for me to become a coach. And I jumped right on that opportunity. Obviously, there was hurdles to get over. Me being in a wheelchair, I had to learn how to articulate myself in a manner that, you know, the kids understand. Because obviously I'm not able to get out my chair and be like, hey, you gotta, you know, no, you gotta go behind the back, you gotta cross over, you gotta do these things. So that was one of the things that, you know, put me in position to be in spaces like this where, you know, I learned how to use my voice and, yeah, just articulate myself a little bit better.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but sometimes if you don't toot your own horn, you might not hear no music, right? So, you know, I was a pretty dynamic basketball player, man. Let me tell you, there's some guys here who can bear witness to that. And so, yeah, there's some guys here who can bear witness to that, man. I was a pretty dynamic basketball player. But I just want to say, man, I might not be what I once was, but once I can be what I was. So I'm saying that to say, I got Man right here and my friend Ryan Rance back there, and we ready to play 3-on-3 against any of your young people. I don't mind beating up on no young people in no basketball. I don't mind doing that because I think I got a chance. You know, they can't take what we was. You know, they can't take what we was. But in trying to make light of a serious subject, I just want to say again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your willingness to be open, honest, and to allow folks to see not through you, but to see to you. And again, it's a two-party process. My friend David Hepard is here, and I want to give him a shout out by saying he taught me when I was inside that life is not a singular one-on-one thing. Life is a team sport. You got to have people, right? You got to have connection. In his words, you got to have your folks, right? And so I just want to say that for us, it was important that you shared your story. But again, I just want to say how important it is that you received it, that the audience was able to receive it and hold it and resonate. And I'm a person who believes in what I've coined exposure therapy. And what I mean by that is I just want everybody, when you leave here today, to be sure and share some of the stuff you learned, some of the stuff you heard, some of the stuff you felt. Because more important than what you think is what you feel. And I just want to know if you will please share how you feel today or how you felt in one moment today with somebody who wasn't here. And that way we get to expose more people about the realities of the real world that we all live in. And while we're talking about what the cost of incarceration is, as much as anything else, the cost of incarceration is disconnection. We become disconnected from our folks. We become disconnected from our family. We become disconnected from the folks we love, right? And so even when we're free, there's a lot of people I met today that just got out. There's people in the room who they ain't even been out 2 months. And I got a chance to shake their hand and tell them, you know, thank you so much for being here. Just imagine you ain't even been out 2 months. You don't even know how to work your phone, but you made it here today.
Yeah.
So as we talk about not knowing how to use your phone, I'm tell you, Chaser came up here and told a couple stories. I got a story for you, right? I ain't gonna let him upstage me. I got a story for you. And so when I first got out, somebody bought a phone for me. So I had a phone. I walked out the door. I got my phone and I was like, okay, thank you. We're doing it. And I'm amazed. All this stuff is going off. Now, mind you, I went to prison in 1991. Nobody was using computers. Very few people had access to some kind of a mobile phone. I got out in 2021 and everybody had a phone, and your phone is like a computer, right? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. So here I am. I got out on a Friday. On Saturday, my friend David come pick me up. We about to go to the mall. I'm about to go get my first access to the mall to go buy some clothes and stuff. And he's like, man, I've been calling you. You ain't even answer the phone. I told you how to use it. I'm like, man, technology is stupid, man. This stuff don't even work. This expensive Apple iPhone, what is it, 17 or whatever the one I got in 2020. I was like, man, this joint don't even work. It's not even coming on. He said, let me see it. I said, all right, I give it to him. And he goes, bro, did you charge it? I said, what do you mean? Nobody told me that you got to charge it. So I was like, what are you talking about? Would charge what? With what? And he's like, the little plug, man, you got to plug it in at night when you go to sleep or something so that it recharges so you can use it. I was like, man, well, that would have been pretty good if you'd told me that yesterday or something, right? And so I didn't have that understanding. And so now I want to bring you to the real story, right? And so the real story is, I thought that my phone was the most important thing in the world. I thought it was the greatest invention of all times. It was fantastic, right? Until it ran out. And when it ran out, I couldn't use it. It became worthless. It was useless because I didn't know how to plug it in to get it back up. So to me, it was useless. I might as well didn't even have it because I couldn't call anybody. Nobody couldn't call me, right? So here I am stuck with the phone until David told me about the charger. So now we know that the phone can't be the most important thing, right? Because the phone needs a charger, right? And so when you leave here today, as we leave this moment, we're going to transition to a couple other moments before you go. But I just want to say this now because it's important because of what we just experienced. And that is, my ask to you is to find your charger, whoever your charger is, and make sure you plug in and get charged up. Hold it 1 second. So I'm fortunate enough that I brought my charger here with me. My partner Kelsey is here. I brought my charger with me. So make sure you plug in and get charged up because I'm going to get charged up. I don't know about you. I'm going to get charged up. Make sure you get your charger. And make sure you know that the phone don't mean nothing if it don't have a charger. Thank you. That's it. Bye-bye.